Hello, I'm Horror Queen Cosplay, and this is my cosplay of Olga from the 2022 film called The Northman. I absolutely adore studying history and even minored in it in college. One of my specialties was medieval Viking and Roman history in the context of how it is portrayed in film. So this was an absolute delight of a movie and costume for me to take on. I spent hours of research into this type of garment since I'd never done a Viking era historical costume, and do even have a works cited in my build book coming up. The costume is mostly completed, however, there will be small cleanups and touch ups before the convention. Starting off, there is the inner shift made out of scrap muslin fabric that I had on hand in order to save cost. The fabric was dyed in order to provide a more historical look. It was also my first time doing French seams on the inside of the garment. The pattern for both the shift and the dress came from a Viking historical garment book that I found and were hand drafted and measured by me. The outside shift is made out of wool fabric, same wool fabric as the blanket cape as well. The insides have hand stitching finishes to them, and the outside has trim that I hand wove. Both the trim on the blanket, or cape as you may call it, and the dress are done with tablet weaving. Tablet weaving is a technique from the Viking and medieval era that I learned for the very first time for this costume. The cape has over 200 inches of hand-woven trim, where the dress has just under 40 inches of hand-woven trim, with two distinct patterns. The pants in the film are not particularly easy to see, so I used, for my own comfort, a basic pant pattern with an elastic waistband, also with very loosely woven wool. The wrap or cape does also have top stitching applied to it to provide the same texture that it does have in the film, as well as roll hems for the final inches. And this was my very first time doing a basic fringe for any sort of costume piece. The belt is also made by me using scrap pleather fabric and then aged with liquid earth paints, and I used foam clay to create the metal piece on the end. Now, because I could not see some of the finer details of the garment in any reference images, even if I rewatched the movie, I decided to carve somewhat of a tree pattern into the metal tip of the belt, just for as a callback to the ancestral tree that Amleth, Olga's boy toy husband, sees several times throughout the film. The boots were made by me as well. I could not decide on any boots that I found in stores or online, so I decided to make them myself. This was my very first time ever making shoes, and I heavily modified and drafted myself the pattern for the shoes based off of some basic Viking shoe patterns I found online. And even though it's not entirely historically accurate, I did also add rubber soles to the bottom to ensure that the shoes will be able to be worn more than once. The wig is a basic lace front that I styled myself using elastic bands to keep everything in place, as well as leather cords that are attached to the inside of the wig and woven around her little pigtail braid-esque pieces. Finally, there is the necklace coin that Amleth has been wearing for the entire film and was given to him by his father, that he then gives to Olga at the very end of the film and is part of the iconic scene in her blue dress. And that too is constructed with foam clay, carving while the clay was drying, leftover leather cords from the wig, and paint. Overall, the entire costume took over 80 hours, with the tablet weaving taking well over 45 hours of that aspect. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to show you guys the costume in person.